Hello everyone. Today I'm going to recap the movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh, God in heaven. He looks just like my ex-husband.
An old woman is living out her last days in a hospital room. Her daughter Caroline is constantly by her side. Despite the turbulent weather and an approaching hurricane, Caroline is only concerned about the condition of her mother. Understanding that her death is inevitable, Caroline tries in every possible way to make her mother's last days easier. The old mother tells her daughter a story about a clock that runs counterclockwise. The story took place during the First World War. A blind clockmaker and his wife had an only son who went off to war. Some time later, they received a notification of their son's death, followed by his body arriving in a coffin. After burying their only child, the clockmaker continued working on the clock ordered for the city train station. However, his son's death affected him so much that he made an unusual clock. At the moment of the grand opening, it turned out that the clock was running in the opposite direction. According to the clockmaker, this would allow the soldiers who died in the war to rise up and return home. So the boys, including his son, could live a normal life. After this, the clockmaker disappeared. Some said he sailed away on a boat into the sea, others said he died of a broken heart. Suddenly, the old woman makes a strange wish. At her request, Caroline takes out an old handwritten diary from her mother's bag and starts to read it. It turns out to be the diary of Benjamin Button, where he wrote down his incredible story.
My name is Benjamin. Benjamin Button.
Benjamin was born on a festive night when the whole city celebrated the end of the war. The joyful father rushes to his wife, but only manages to hear a few words from her. She dies immediately after giving birth. His wife makes him promise that he will take care of their son. But approaching the baby and lifting the blanket, he sees not an ordinary baby but a terrifying and wrinkled face, like that of a very old person. Screaming in horror, the father grabs the baby and runs out of the house. At first, he wants to throw the ugly baby into the river, but a policeman starts to chase after him. Fleeing, Mr. Button finds himself at the doorstep of a nursing home. He places the baby on the stairs, slips some money into the blanket, then walks away. A worker from the nursing home, Queenie, with her fiancé comes out of the house. Upon seeing the ugly baby, the woman does not abandon him, but instead decides to raise and nurture him as her own son since she is unable to have a child of her own. She names him Benjamin, and introduces him as her sister's child to the elderly of the house. Later she invites a doctor, who examines the child and diagnoses a rare disease, premature aging. Right after his birth, the baby had the illnesses and physical conditions of an 80-year-old. According to the doctor, he does not expect the baby to survive long. Despite everyone's persuasions to transfer the strange baby to a specialized care center, Queenie refuses and decides to keep the child, and take care of him until the end. The baby lives well in the nursing home, and the elderly are not disturbed by his unusual appearance. Although Benjamin reaches the age of 3, sitting in a wheelchair, he looks like a little hunched old man, as he thought himself to be. The doctor's prediction did not come true and the child continues to live, but he is unable to walk on his own, so he moves around in a wheelchair. On Saturdays, Mother Queenie takes Benjamin to the church, hoping that the Lord will allow her to get pregnant and allow Benjamin to walk. One Saturday, the pastor calls them up and loudly asks God to grant them what they ask for while making dramatic gestures, and turns the situation into a small improvised show.
Oh, damnable affliction!
The pastor interacts with Queenie but nothing unusual happens to her. However, he truly manages to make Benjamin stand up and walk. The crowd starts to cheer and celebrate, but as soon as Benjamin starts walking, the pastor collapses and dies. Since then, 7-year-old Benjamin has been walking with crutches. Life in the nursing home continues as usual. Some residents passed away, while others arrive. Benjamin meets many interesting people and they teach him various things. One day, a short and talkative pygmy named Odie shows Benjamin the life beyond the nursing home, and buys him a beer. Odie loves to travel and he awakens Benjamin's curiosity for adventure. Later, Benjamin is left alone on an unfamiliar street, but manages to find his way and gets home in the evening. These are his first steps into the wider world. He is tired, but very happy.
It had been the best day of my life.
Meanwhile in the present, news report reveals that the hurricane will be strong, and the nurses are worried as the storm gets closer. Despite this, Caroline's mother asks her to continue reading the diary. On Thanksgiving Day in 1930, Benjamin sees his father for the first time, not realizing who he really is. Mr. Button simply watches the boy, whom everyone else perceives just as an old grandfather. On the same day, Benjamin meets Daisy, an attractive girl with blue eyes. They become friends and really enjoy each other's company. Although they are almost the same age, to everyone else they appeared as a teenage girl and a balding old man in glasses. The people around, not knowing that Benjamin is actually a child, began criticizing his friendship with Daisy.
And you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
However, Daisy and Benjamin understand each other perfectly. They feel mutual attraction and share secrets. Caroline realizes and finds it surprising that her dying mother is the little Daisy from Benjamin's diary. Story continues. As time passed, Queenie gave birth to a daughter. God answered her daily prayers. Benjamin becomes independent and starts interacting with other people. One lady teaches him to play the piano. Around this time, Benjamin starts to notice that his hair is growing thicker, and his body is becoming stronger. He has long forgotten about the crutches and walks without difficulties. One day, Queenie allows Benjamin, who is already 15 years old at that time, to go for a walk to the port. There he accidentally ends up on a ship hired as a sailor. Captain Mike, who loves to drink, enjoys talking to the old man. Finding out that Benjamin has never been with a woman, the captain takes him to a brothel. The woman, who spent time with the old grandfather, was extremely surprised by his physical capabilities.
I've got to rest.
I can't.
Realizing that money can buy him many things, and having his first sexual experience, Benjamin walks home. A car pulls up beside him and Mr. Button is in the car. Mr. Button then invites Benjamin to have a drink. They sit in the bar for a long time talking and drinking. Benjamin called this day in his diary as the moment of growing up.
Sweet Jesus, boy.
Benjamin's attraction to Daisy grows stronger. One early morning, he takes Daisy to the boat and asks his new friend Captain Mike to take them for a ride along the river. Despite the risk of losing his license, Captain Mike agrees, and his guests aboard enjoy a romantic morning on the river. Noticing the changes happening to his body, Benjamin starts to suspect that he is getting younger. One day, he decides to start his own journey in life, and set off on a long voyage. As they said goodbye, Daisy asks him to send postcards from every place he would visit. Benjamin and Daisy have now parted ways. Daisy enters ballet school and begins her career as a dancer. Meanwhile, Benjamin travels the world on a boat with his friend Captain Mike, and as promised, he sends Daisy postcards from different parts of the world. One day, the captain says that Benjamin is looking better and blooming before his eyes. Benjamin jokes and laughs it off, though he already knows for sure that he is getting younger. During the trip, the crew stays at the Winter Palace Hotel. There, Benjamin meets Elizabeth, a married woman of middle age with an ordinary appearance. He finds her very beautiful at the time. Coming down one night from his bedroom to the foyer, he encounters Elizabeth, who is also unable to sleep. They sit down for tea and start a conversation. Elizabeth talks about the places she has visited. They enjoy each other's company and feel drawn to one another. This continues, and they meet every night in the foyer and talk until morning. Benjamin writes letters to Daisy, and in one of them, he tells her that he has met a wonderful woman and has fallen in love. At that moment, Benjamin considers Daisy a childhood friend, and Elizabeth his beloved woman. Their romance is beautiful and mysterious. At Elizabeth's request, they meet only at night and part at dawn, never confessing their love to each other. However, this doesn't prevent them from being happy and enjoying their feelings within the boundaries they have set. On another night, the happiness suddenly comes to an end. Elizabeth doesn't come to meet him and simply disappears from the hotel. And soon Benjamin learns that the war has begun. Elizabeth only left a note with the words, "I'm glad I met you." And the young man never heard from her again. The American president sends a fleet to Japan, and the ship on which Benjamin sails is mobilized for military service. Their cook leaves them and resigns from the crew, so Benjamin offers his services as a ship's cook and the captain agrees. They arrive in the combat zone. On their way, they encounter a ship hit by an enemy torpedo, surrounded by the corpses of dead sailors. It's clear that they will be the enemy's next target, so the crew prepares for battle. Both sides fire machine guns at each other, bullets drumming against the iron structures of the ship. In the darkness, they collide with the enemy submarine and sink together to the bottom. 1,328 people died that day, including Captain Mike. Surviving the battle, Benjamin gives the widow of one of the deceased crew members the money that he had saved for his family. He bids farewell to the fallen crew members. The war made him realize that the death of young people is unnatural. After the war ended, 26-year-old Benjamin returns home, and he looks to be about 40 years old. Mother Queenie hasn't seen Benjamin for a very long time. Rejoicing at the return of her adopted son, the mother decides to find him a wife and a job. Soon after Benjamin's return, Daisy also arrives at the nursing home. Their reunion was joyful and friendly, but Benjamin no longer looks at Daisy as just a childhood friend. He sees her as a beautiful woman. He invites her to a famous restaurant for dinner. Daisy tells him about her life and career, from which the war has kept her away for so long. After the restaurant, they walk through the park, and Daisy starts to dance. Daisy is attracted to Benjamin, but he doesn't want to engage in romantic or physical closeness with her, so he suggests just taking a walk or listening to music.
Daisy, just not tonight is all.
Benjamin is surprised that his body is constantly rejuvenating. Soon his father visits him and tells him about his business, which is manufacturing buttons. After gathering his courage, Mr. Button confesses that he is Benjamin's father and is going to give him the factory, because he has health problems and losing his strength.
Benjamin, you're my son.
Speechless, Benjamin goes home and tells Queenie about his father. But she is not ready for this news, so she reacts with both anger and worry. After some time, Benjamin goes to his father at night, and together they go to the pier to watch the sunrise. Unfortunately for Benjamin, it is both a farewell and a reconciliation with his father. Shortly after, his father dies. Benjamin arrives in New York and goes to the theater where Daisy is performing. With flowers in his hand, he makes his way to the backstage to meet her. Daisy invites her childhood friend to a party with her friends. After attending the party, Benjamin gets upset and decides to leave. He sees Daisy dancing and enjoying herself with her friends, and finds out she has a boyfriend. He had hoped she would rush to hug him, saying she was incredibly happy to see him, but that didn't happen. She had moved on with her life. Benjamin and Daisy lived in different cities, but they never stopped thinking about each other. One day, Daisy suffered a misfortune. She was hit by a car and has her leg broken in 5 places. Her dancing career came to an end. Benjamin visits her in a Paris hospital, but there, they had another argument, and their paths diverged once again. A few years later, Daisy returns to New Orleans and meets Benjamin. The old man is now completely young and looks the same age as Daisy. This time, they begin a romance and sail together on a yacht into the sea. Later, Queenie, Benjamin's adoptive mother, dies. After saying goodbye to her, the couple move into their own house. Daisy becomes a dance teacher, and they live a happy life full of love. One day Daisy informs Benjamin that she is pregnant. Along with their joy comes the fear that the child may inherit father's rare disease.
Loving you was worth everything to me.
Later, Daisy gives birth to a healthy and beautiful girl. The parents give her the name Caroline. She is the same Caroline who reads the diary of her father to her mother Daisy.
And this is how you tell me.
Benjamin understands that he is growing younger and not older like everyone else. Therefore, he realizes he can't be a normal father and husband. He sells his business and inherited property, deposits the money into his wife's account, then leaves.
And so that you and your mother might have a life.
Benjamin travels the world and takes on any job he can find. He meets a variety of people, but he never forgets to send postcards to his daughter on each of her birthdays.
They're all for me.
Daisy marries a good man and lives a happy life with him. One day, Benjamin returns to see his family. He looks like he is 20 years old, and both he and Daisy realize that they have made the right decision by parting ways. Yet, they still feel drawn to each other.
I'll never stop loving you.
They make love in a hotel room and then part ways again for many years. They meet each other again when Daisy is already an elderly woman, and Benjamin looks like a teenager. He lives in the nursing home because he is becoming senile and forgetting everything. This time, Daisy can no longer leave him alone. Her daughter has moved out, and her husband has passed away. She dedicates all her time to the boy who is actually an old man. Benjamin continues to grow younger and forgets almost everything. Daisy cares for him like a child, which is how others see him. The old station clock is removed and replaced with a new one. Later, Benjamin, as a baby, dies in the arms of his beloved Daisy. Before he dies, he suddenly remembers his life, and Daisy sees it in his wise and sorrowful eyes. Caroline finishes reading the diary and listening to her mother's story. Soon, a storm breaks out, flooding the basement where they kept the old station clock. The girl rushes out of the room to see what is happening, and Daisy takes her last breath, uttering Benjamin's name.